All right, let's go ahead and get into all of my palettes. Let's go through what I'm keeping and what I'm going to pass along, whether that be donating or giving to my friends and family. Let's begin. Grabbing off the top and dusting her off is my Pat McGrath Mothership 5 palette. This is gorgeous, bronzy, beautiful tones. I'm not completely sure about Pat McGrath's cruelty-free status. I am going to keep this because I do love the tones. I wear these kind of colors, and it was expensive, TBH, so it's going in the keep container. Both of my Patrick Ta palettes, 1 and 2. 1 is very neutrals, bronzes. I like this formula, especially the mattes, the shimmers. They do kind of fall out quite a bit, so you really need to do your eyes first, but they create gorgeous, like, golden hour kind of looks. I'm going to be keeping Major Dimension 2. Love these rosy tones, burgundies. This color story in particular looks really nice with my red hair and blue eyes. Keeping Urban Decay Naked Robin Eisenberg palette. Finally, something different from Urban Decay that we had been waiting for a long time. Unfortunately, I really don't like the formula. The mattes are not as smooth as I want them to be, and the shimmers are not as punchy as I'd like them to be. You kind of have to work with them and wet your brush, and I follow her on Instagram. There are other ways that I can support them, but this palette is just not being used by me. I'm going to pass it along. This is the Makeup by Mario Master Mattes palette. This is a wonderful palette to have if you just like wearing kind of warm leaning brown tones. I love the formula. They blend out super beautifully. Keeping for sure. It's a Purple Nudes palette from Pacifica Beauty. Purples are my favorite colors. Purple and teal, top 2 colors for me, so I tried to incorporate them in my makeup as well. I have another palette from Pacifica that I really like. I don't know. I'm going to keep this one for now, but it is on my watch list for maybe the next declutter. This is a new launch from them, but I'm keeping for now. Another drugstore option is the Flower Beauty Desert Lights palette. This is absolutely stunning. These shimmers are so smooth, nice and bold and pigmented. I'm keeping for sure. I'm also going to keep the Jungle Lights palette from Flower. It's the same formulas, you just have richer tones and it's not all that rose gold. Definitely recommend this from the drugstore. Keeping next on the list is my Isamaya Industrial palette. This formula is actually quite similar to the Pat McGrath formula. Some really unique shifts and shades in here. It's also one of the cases where, like, this is so expensive, I definitely need to keep it. I don't necessarily support Isamaya anymore, but I will keep this palette. Another colorful in the purple family palette that I have is the Mercury Retrograde palette by Huda Beauty. Remember when I said teals and purples are my favorite colors? Well, this palette hits them all and it even has some neutrals over here. Huda Beauty always comes with unique formulas. I keep. This is the palette from Pacifica that I was mentioning earlier that I know I really love. This is the Animal Magic palette. The mattes are really pigmented and blend out nicely. This is a great, dare I say it, fantastic palette from the drugstore. It has everything you need. I would love for them to come out with like another Animal Magic palette, but maybe more cool toned. Oh, sign me up. I'd buy it immediately. Keeping for show. And we have the limited edition. You can no longer get this Makeup by Mario palette. This is the Ethereal Eyes palette. I think it was a huge mistake on his part to make this limited edition. I could see it being a staple in a lot of people's collections. This is a wonderful palette. I'm gonna keep it. I have this 9-pan chocolate palette from Ciate London. This is giving very much Huda Beauty vibes, but the formula is just not comparable to Huda Beauty in my opinion. I'm gonna pass this along. This is a woman-owned business, Bossy Beauty. You can find it at JCPenney, I believe. This is the Style Meets Substance palette. I am going to keep this because it has some pretty unique shades, like these 2 shades right here. I keep. All right, this is the Coffee Talk palette from Sydney Grace. It is like the cool tone brown palette of my dreams. I don't reach for this very often, and that's a shame on me because Sydney Grace has some of the most beautiful formulas. The powders are just so smooth, great quality, and be able to support them, so I keep. Pure Cosmetics sent me their On Point eyeshadow palettes, and each one is labeled a day of the week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They just all have different tones. They are 6-pan palettes. I'm going to open them and decide which one I'm going to keep which one I'm going to keep. Okay, after some deliberation, I'm going to get rid of Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So I'm going to pass these 3. Oh, wrong bucket. And the one I'm keeping is Thursday, which is like some cool tone purple goodness. This stunner is the Vive 9 Tease palette. It's a like tease, like, ooh, I'm teasing you, but also 90s, like 1990s. These mattes are so cool toned and so gorgeous. I love it very much. I think this could have been like either a 6-pan or a 9-pan palette though, because like some of these grays on the eye do translate very similar in tone. This is a great formula. The pans are huge, like compared to a normal eyeshadow. These are huge pans. I am going to keep this for now. It might be on the watch list, but oof, it'll be really hard to get rid of. Keeping it for now. This is the Nikki Tutorials and Beauty Bay like collab. It's a pressed pigment palette. I got it for free because I purchased, too much on Beauty Bay. I keep it not because I'm like a Nikki Tutorials stan or anything. The colors in here are amazing and unique. I do colorful looks. That's kind of my jam. So this comes in handy. Until I find like my perfect rainbow palette or something, I'm going to be keeping this. Okay, don't judge the filth of it, but something that will be perfect for spring and summer coming up is my Hindash Monochromance palette. I love these colors. I love Hindash. I'm a little biased because I am a Hindash stan, okay? I'll just be honest. I love his passion for beauty. I love his tutorials on YouTube. I love his perspective. So these gradients are really stunning, and they're made to just blend right into each other because that's how they're presented on the pan. You can use it on your eyes or your cheeks. I am keeping for sure. This is another Sydney Grace palette. This is in collaboration with Tim Talia. This is the Quintessence palette, but this is the light version. Something really uniquely amazing about Sydney Grace is they've come out with a light version and a deep version, which is amazing. And why isn't everybody doing that? Kudos to Sydney Grace for that. However, doesn't this remind you of that Urban Decay one that I passed along? So unfortunately, I am going to pass this one along too. Right, this is my Aether Beauty Desert Sunset palette. I got this palette specifically because that bright coral in the middle, kind of like a challenge to me to see if I could use it. These browns have a lot of yellow to them, which does make them unique to my collection. So I am going to keep this one. Also going to be keeping my Rose Quartz palette from Aether. This is my love again for purple, but very kind of like muted and cool toned. Same smooth formula. I appreciate the cardboard packaging. There's no mirror, there's no magnets. It's easy to recycle. I love how intentional Aether Beauty is about everything that they put out into the earth. So I'm keeping a lot of purples. Look at this beauty. This is the Kaleidos Escape Pod palette. That bright pink shade, amazing. I have definitely not given this palette the attention that it deserves, but now that it's getting warmer, I'm more excited to play with a lot of color. It's fairly new to my collection, and it's staying. This is the Mystic Forest palette by Estate Beauty. I believe I got this in a cruelty-free subscription box. Just look at these colors. This is a perfect fall palette, 100%. I think I am going to keep this for now, hear me out, and see how much I reach for it in the fall. If I'm finding I'm not reaching for it because I found something new or I'm using something else, then I'll pass along. So keeping, but it is on my watch list. This is a limited edition Danessa Myricks Lightwork Volume 3 Infinite Light Palette. I believe you can get these shades, but not in this format anymore. Very few things rival Danessa Myricks textures and duochromes. There's no way I'm getting rid of this. Great for my editorial looks, keeping her. Also gonna keep the sister, the Lightwork 4 palette. And this one, you've got all these same unique textures, but you also have these duochrome wet liners and then these two pressed chrome flakes. It's so interesting looking on the monitor. This one right here looks green in the camera, but me looking at it right now, I see blue. There's just no way cameras can really catch how unique and pretty these shades are. Keeping her for sure. I used this palette pretty recently for a look. This is the IBY Beauty Boho palette. This was sent to me and I enjoy the shades. I'm just not reaching for this palette. A lot of these shades are also in that Pacifica Animal Magic palette that I kept, so I feel like somebody could really get a lot of use out of this, so I'm going to pass it along. Here I have a palette that I have made up with Mob Beauty eyeshadows. That's a blush, just ignore that. These are single shadows that you can purchase, and you purchase the palette, you build your own kind of deal. I'm keeping these. Mob Beauty's mattes are like old school MAC shadows. If you liked that formula, you're going to like Mob Beauty shadows. The creator of Mob Beauty used to create a lot of things for MAC, so no wonder there's a lot of similarities, but wonderful, sustainable, keeping. Another one with my shimmers, and these two are just powder highlighters, but the shimmers are really nice. I don't find that I have to wet them to get them to show on my face, but they are more like metallic shimmers, not glittery toppers. It would be nice to see a glittery topper from Mob, but they have a lot of great things coming, so keeping these. Right, Cali Ray sent me their new palette. This is very new to the market. This is the Endless Sunset palette. They describe it as a multi-purpose palette for eyes and cheeks. I don't understand why this is just a sticker. Like, they could have just done without that or made a removable mirror like Half Magic Beauty did in their palette. The issue with this is they need to go back to the drawing board, not only on the shades in here, but the saturation and the depth of color. I am a very pale white person, and some of these colors were not even impactful on my skin. So there is no way that this would work well for, I would say, anybody deeper than myself, which is kind of crazy. This palette, unfortunately, is not it for me. I just used it in a YouTube video. It's not going to be living at my house for very much longer, unfortunately. Next, I have this little quad from Vain Beauty, V-A-E-N. I'm not going to keep it because I kept that Mystic Forest palette from Estate Beauty, and they're kind of giving me the same earthy green vibes, so I'm going to pass this one along. This is the Cool Nude Essentials palette from Ilia, and I used to absolutely love this palette, but between the Pure Cosmetics palette that I kept and the 90s palette from Vive Beauty, I think I have enough of these kind of tones in my collection to where I can pass this one along, because honestly I'm not using it very much. Not too long ago, Huda Beauty sent me these two Matte Obsessions palette. You have Cool Obsessions and Warm Obsessions. They are 9-pan shadows. I'm going to hang on to them, and they're very interesting because these two shades are creams. I do see a problem how these two shades right here do look very similar. So this is going to be kept for now, but it is on my watch list. And then the Cool Tone palette, which is the one I really prefer. Can you guess why? Purples, okay? The creams in this one are these two in the top. These are obviously my tones. You got me, Huda. I'm keeping. Right, this gorgeous little quad is from Beauty Pie in collaboration with James Malloy, who is a wonderful makeup artist I follow over on Instagram. I believe I have these tones, and this formula is kind of like a gel powder formula, even in the mattes, so it is great. If you are a member of Beauty Pie, it can be quite affordable, and tell me this doesn't look like a Charlotte Tilbury palette. I do have these colors. Someone else is going to love this. I'm going to pass it along. Now this is the gorgeous Rowan 75 Degrees palette. They are like cream shadows. Very bedroom eyes, very grungy. They don't ever really set down on the lid. It looks like effortlessly undone, which is a look and gorgeous. I really like this component. The mirror goes all the way back. It's nice and slick and sleek. However, they don't make this formula anymore. They reformulated for some reason. I have heard that it is not as good. So things over at Rowan are a little different, and I'm just going to toss this one because they're creams and I dip my little grubby fingers in it. Not going to pass it along. I'm just going to get rid of it. This is a quad I created from Johnny Concert. They let me pick out 4 shades, and unfortunately this is not my favorite formula, so I really don't ever reach for it. I like that this palette is magnetic and you just slip the shadows right there, but I am going to pass it along because I'm just not using it. For as grubby as this is, I have only swatched it, so I guess I'm just a grubby person and things get grubby as soon as they enter the door. I just don't think I'm ever going to use it. I have other palettes or singles with these same shades. Passing it. I'm going to be keeping my Milani Gilded Mini palette in Whiskey Business. This is a great alternative to the Makeup by Mario Master Mattes palette. It doesn't have as many colors, but you can absolutely get the same look. And the formula of these are quite nice. They're all mattes. Love it. Keeping it. Dropping it. This is the quad in Glowing Iris. Hello. Purples for the win once again. I love it. I'm not getting rid of it. I mean, just look at this packaging. It's a piece of art, and I'm keeping it. I have a little quad from CoverGirl, clean color quad. This is the Spiced Copper edition. I was thoroughly impressed with the formula of these. This does cost more than I think it should cost. However, this is much nicer than the e.l.f. ones. The formula, the mattes are super buttery. This metallic shade doesn't get clumpy, and then this shade is like a glitter topper. Ooh, these tones look great on blue eyes. I'm keeping it. I have 2 of the Lisa Eldridge palettes. I bought them already curated. I did not purchase single shadows and fill them, although you can choose to do so. I picked out the Myth palette, because duh, purples. Are we sensing a theme? Lisa Eldridge, I have always been a fan of hers. I've watched her on YouTube for years and years, and the fact that she shares her knowledge with us for free on YouTube is amazing. Some of these textures in here are so unique, and keeping 1000%. Even if I didn't like the shadows, I would still keep it because I would just display it. It's like I said with the Kaleidos, they are a work of art. This is the Cinnabar palette. Clearly I use this one more. I mean, I have been so bold as to claim this is the best palette for redheads, and I stand by that. If you're a redhead, the Lisa Eldridge Cinnabar palette will look absolutely stunning on you. It looks stunning on anyone because the formula is amazing. Keeping. Undone Beauty, you guys know, is one of my favorite brands. They have been so gracious as to send me over quite a few of these little quads, so I'm going to go through them and decide which to keep and which to pass along. Alright, I'm going to pass along these 3. These 2 on the top I have used, but the one on the bottom I haven't even opened yet. It'd be a great neutral palette. So I'm passing these 3 along. And then I'm going to keep this also very neutral one. And then this cool one with some pinks and this like lime green. This is the Cosmo and Wanda palette. JK, that's not what it's called, but that's what I'm going to call it. And what's unique about these quads is that you can use them wet or dry. I am keeping these 2. I have 2 little babies from Kaja Beauty, Spice Ginger and Mauve Bouquet. This one has a matte, a shimmer, and another matte. Keeping. And this one has a gorgeous like chunky shimmer, a metallic, and a matte. Keeping that one as well. Last but not least for my palettes, this is a new launch from LYS Beauty, the Love Yourself palette in Empowered. This is a gorgeous palette. Keeping. These are liquid shadows and liquid glitters, so let's begin. First off is these Hypnotic Lights holographic eye toppers from Milani. These are actually really beautiful. However, I don't know if they were limited edition or not. I'm going to look on the website. If you can't get them, I'm going to pass them along. If you can get them, then I'm only going to keep one or two. I don't need all of them, so for right now, they're going in the giveaway container. This is a really cool 2-for-1 from Profusion. It's got a matte liquid shadow on one side and a shimmer on the other. I think this color is going to be perfect for a spring look, so I'm going to keep it for that. Next, I have these glitter pills from Half Magic Beauty. It's basically a glitter suspended in a gel, and they have brush applicator. Apparently, I have two of Money Please. I haven't even opened this one. I'm going to keep the one I have open. Pass along the one I have not. I'm going to keep Neptune Daddy, and unfortunately I'm going to have to toss out Microgasm, which was my favorite, but for some reason it has gone entirely liquid on me. This is not how it was when I first got it, but I guess after a period of time the formula just goes off. I can't use it, so I'm going to get rid of it. I've got a liquid glitter from Jason Wu. This is a Celestial Lust in the shade Songbird. I'm going to keep this because it's a drugstore product and it's good to compare to some of my higher end glitters. I have 3 more of a different formula from Half Magic. A glittery liquid shadow, not just straight up glitter like before. I have ASMR, Lil Beast, and Main Character. I'm going to be keeping all 3 of these. These Chrome Addiction eye paints from Half Magic. I have 4 matte shades. Keeping, love the formula. They glide on super smooth, not patchy, last all day. Another liquid shadow that I absolutely love are the matte fluid eye paints from About Face. I have these kinds of colors. I'm keeping all of these. To me, this formula is like unparalleled. It's a super easy liquid shadow to work with. The bold colors are indeed bold. They don't fade during the day and they don't blend out to nothing when you use your finger or a brush. I love the formula. I use them for liner, faux freckles, like literally everything. Keeping. A matte pigment paint that I didn't really think was all that impressive was from House Lab. Mine is just in the shade Blush Matte. These are not as remarkable as the ones from About Face, which you can also use on your cheeks, on your eyes. So I'm going to be passing this along to someone else who might like it. I have a few of the Twin Flames from Danessa Myricks. These are a multi-chrome liquid pigment as a punch in the inner corner or on the center of the lid. It's amazing. Long story short, keeping these. I have 2 Color Fix mattes from Danessa Myricks. These are, again, a liquid pigment and claim to be able to be used on lips, cheeks, and eyes. These are super pigmented. Once you get them on your face, they are going to stay on for a very long time. I don't really like them on my lips by themselves. You definitely need a gloss over them. I definitely need a gloss over them. So I have the light one here is in Latte and this is Plum Wine. I'm keeping these. Color Fix Cream. This is in Celebration. It is a brown with silver glitter in it. And I honestly expected this to be more glittery. And I think with the products that I have from Half Magic, I can create the look that I thought this was going to be. So I'm going to pass this along. Don't get me wrong, it's absolutely beautiful. I just am not using it as much as it deserves to be used. So I'm passing it along. And then I have 3 of the Color Fix foils. So these have a lot more glitter in them. The gold here is in the shade Nebula. It's absolutely beautiful. The pink is the shade Fantasy. And then the purple is the shade Rebirth. I'm going to keep the gold Nebula. I'm going to keep the purple Rebirth. But I'm going to pass along this one in Fantasy. I think on a deeper skin tone, this will be a lot more impactful, but hopefully you can tell by my palm, it's pretty close to my skin tone, which can be a look, but I have other things that I just like better. I'm going to pass it along to somebody who will fall in love with it. These are the fractal eye paints from About Face. Same kind of idea as their matte. These are just glitters. I have Tin Pan Alley, which is a beige, so this is kind of going to be what's going to replace that Danessa Myricks one for me. And I have Refract, which is a silver. I'm keeping both. Also going to be keeping the Vinyl Effect Eye Gloss from About Face. Going to pass along this multi-chrome liquid shadow from Tude Beauty. Looks really stunning here in the little bottle, doesn't it? But when I blend it out on my lids, I just kind of get that black base pigment, and it's not as pretty as it is in the bottle, and I have to work kind of hard for it, so I'm passing it along. I found a Color Fix glaze. I was using this for my glossy lids before I got the About Face Vinyl Effect. This one is in the shade Crystal. Love that little cap, and it has glitter in it, but it's a little thick, so I just like the About Face one better. So I'm going to pass this along. Also going to pass along this Jones Road Sparkle Wash in Gilded. It's pretty, but in true Jones Road fashion, it's just a little too sheer and unremarkable. It doesn't give me a punch that a glitter liquid shadow should, so I'm going to pass it along. I have 2 Diamond Days shadows from Moira Cosmetics, Green Paradise and Regal. I don't have a deep dark green like this. It does have a black base, so I just kind of have to build it up a little bit. I'm going to keep these 2 for now. They're going to be placed on the watch list, however. I just really have found that I like the Half Magic and About Face formula, so these are having to compete with that, unfortunately. So if I find I'm not reaching for them, I'm going to pass them along, but for now, they're going in the keep. These are my Lisa Eldridge Liquid Lorex shadows. This is one of the best liquid eyeshadow formulas I've ever tried. The glitter in here is nice and subtle. It looks really refined. They look more sophisticated than the ones from About Face and Half Magic per se, so I'm keeping all of them. They're wonderful and gorgeous and easy to work with. I have 5 of the Gen C Mixed Metal Liquid Shadows. 2 of them are matte. There's Plush and Reef. I'm going to be keeping the 2 matte ones. 3 of them are a metallic. I'm going to be keeping First Light and Bronzed Age. I'm going to pass along this more green gold, just because on my skin tone, it's not my favorite look. So this one is in Desert Highway. I'm going to pass it along. This liquid eyeshadow from Ilia in the color Juniper is so unique. I love this like olive green color. For that reason, I'm going to keep it. Do foresee this like being more of a fall color because it's not like that spring green, if you will. So it is also on the watch list. For now it's safe, but it's on the list. I'm going to pass along this Rare Beauty liquid shadow. This is in Nearly Rose. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's also nothing amazing about it. Again, it's hard to compete with the About Face shadows for me, and this does sheer out quite a bit. I am going to pass this along because somebody who's more minimalist than I am is going to love it. These are the NYX Glow Shots. The bronze is Wow Cacao. Magenta is Plum Player. Definitely, if you've never tried a glittery liquid shadow before, start here. These are amazing. They set down, they don't budge once they dry. Easy to blend out, but they don't blend out to nothing. Definitely recommend these for 100% sure keeping. Alright, from liquids we go to creams. I have included my ColourPop Super Shock shadows in with my creams just because they're kind of a unique texture. And I have Ritz, which is a good dupe for one of my Urban Decay shadows. I'm going to keep my busted Ritz. This shade is really beautiful. It's in the shade Obvi. I'm going to keep it because spring and summer is coming up and I feel like I'll use it, but it's going to be on the watch list. Y'all help me remember who's taking notes of what's on the watch list, because by the time I upload this I'm going to forget, but I'm going to keep it for now. This one is in Ladybird. It is an ultra glitter. I'm going to keep it. I just like having drugstore options. Just to make myself feel like I'm accomplishing something, I'm going to pass along Secret Garden. It is also an ultra glitter. Passing it along. This one has survived quite a few declutters. It is the Auric Smoke Reflect Cream and Powder Eyeshadow in the shade Defiance. I haven't used it very much, and hopefully you can see the cream is coming away from the pot there. That means it's dried out. The glitter on top definitely has hard pan, so it's just time to toss this, unfortunately. I'll be keeping my Dazzle Stick from KVD Beauty in Electrobolt. It's super stunning on the lids. Keeping. Unfortunately, I have to toss out my Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize in Amber Gold. As you can see, it also has pulled away from the walls of the container, telling me that it is dried out. And I just looked on the back. These have a 6-month shelf life. Like, who's using all this cream shadow in 6 months? Nobody. So, unfortunately, it's got to be tossed. I have a very hefty collection of the Bodyography glitter pigments. These are probably the best glitter pigment in a pot on the market. They are very opaque on the lids. They're easy to work with. They don't fall out once they're on the lids. I'm keeping all of these. They're my babies. These are the Chroma Flakes by Glisten Cosmetics. These are like a glitter, a chunky glitter suspended in gel. These in particular are so multifaceted, so pretty, and they're really quite easy to work with and really make for an interesting look. I'm keeping all 3. I have 4 of the potted chrome flakes from Danessa Myricks. These again are on the very similar vein as the Chroma Flakes from Glisten. It is a glitter suspended in a gel. However, the ones from Danessa Myricks are suspended in a gel that is duochrome, so they do give like a more dimensional look. I'm keeping the 4 that I have. I'm going to pass along this single cream eyeshadow from Moira Cosmetics. It's a really nice, affordable cream gold eyeshadow, but it's nothing really remarkable, so I'm passing it along. Ulta Bouncy eyeshadow in the shade Italian Ice. It was going around on the interwebs that this is a dupe for the Urban Decay Space Cowboy, and I strongly disagree with that. Now, this is really pretty and soft and subtle shimmer, but it does not give the same effect. I am going to alcohol this and pass it along to a friend or family member. Now, this is the OG Space Cowboy. It's in with my creams because it's a unique kind of creamy texture. It's not probably marketed as a cream. And this is a nice, just neutral color. The reason I don't think Italian Ice is a dupe for it is just because this one has so much more glitter. And you can even tell that by looking at it. The colors of them are quite similar, but this one just has much more of a sheen and looks really pretty in low lighting. So I'm going to keep it. Now, this Makeup by Mario Master Crystal Reflector in Quartz is supposed to be a highlighter, but I use it quite often, more than I actually thought I would, to be honest, on my eyes. It does have like a bouncy texture, actually feels pretty similar to like a ColourPop formula, and this is just straight up like white glitter, and I like it. I keep it. I have a palette of cream eyeshadows from Mob Beauty. Again, these are individual shadows that you can place in a palette of your choosing. I like them. I keep them. I'll be passing along this cream shadow from the Cream Shop. I have no idea what shade it is. I just found it a little too wet, and that made it really hard to blend out, surprisingly. Like, you would try to blend it out and it would move and pick up. It would like move from the inner corner to the outer corner, even if you didn't want it to. Maybe somebody can make this work. I have a cream eyeshadow from Victoria Beckham in the shade Midnight. It's super gorgeous, and have I worn it? Maybe once. It is ultra pigmented. It is a blue with a black base. I'm keeping this. Victoria Beckham's one of those brands that has a chokehold on me. I don't know what it is, but I do want to use this more. I'm going to keep it. Be passing along these two Ritual Defeat eyeshadows. Everybody hates this packaging, and Ritual Defeat heard that, so they have created a new jar for their shadows. So I'm not using these as much, and it's probably because of the packaging. So I'm going to pass these along. If I find that I miss them like oh so much, then I'll order the new ones. I'm going to be passing along this Double Date eyeshadow duo from Wander Beauty. This is a really great idea. It's a cream and then a shimmer on top. I actually really like this cream. The shimmer in this one in particular, I know they have like a bronzy color, but this shimmer is just very chunky and powdery, so I'm going to pass this along. Not to be too dramatic, but something you absolutely need in your life right now is the new Glitter Puck in Dopamine Smiles from Half Magic Beauty. Just like holding it here in the pot does not do it justice. This is a much more wet formula, but it sets and it doesn't move. It's pure sparkles. Like, it is absolutely stunning, effortlessly applied with a brush or a finger. You get a ton of product, so I have even taken a little scoop of this and mixed it with lotion and rubbed it on my chest. It looked absolutely gorgeous. Definitely keeping this. I have 12 of the Phytosurgent's Flash Fluorescent Cream Shadows. I am keeping Velvet Leaf, Amber Aura, Sunstress, which apparently is really not one of their greatest sellers, but it's actually my favorite. Wild Oak. I have used this one even for a bronzer on my face. And Deeply Rooted, which is like a brown, but it also has some blue and purple to it. It's really pretty. Then Wild Wisteria, which is a shame because I think they discontinued this one, so I'm going to pass it along. Orchid Overload is one that I really love. I believe this one is also discontinued. Of the glitters, they did decide to keep Fractal Freesia, so I am keeping this one. It has no base color to it, but it's a gorgeous eye topper. It also looks really great on bare lids, and the formula is such that it absolutely stays put all day long. Going to be passing along Defiant Dahlia. Mine is just absolutely dried up and really no longer usable. It gets really flaky and chunky. From the Weathered Woods collection, I'm keeping Pewtered Pine. It is a lot less like pewter silver on my lids. It actually comes out like a really pretty purple. I'm going to be passing along Magnetic Maple. It's not as silver as it looks in the pot, but on my skin tone, it's just not as great as some of the others. It's not any fault of the shadow, but I'm going to pass this one along. I'm also going to be keeping Chilled Cherry. And this is a new launch in the same line as the Fractal Freesia, but Tom and Jason have added some more colors. This is Astral Atmosphere. It's a lot more shimmery than it looks on camera, but it is a beautiful rose gold with silver glimmer to it. I'm keeping her. Time to move on to single eyeshadows. I have this kind of unassuming white shadow from Jason Wu in Heavenly. It's nice. I was kind of hoping for a dupe for the Crystal Reflector from Makeup by Mario, and it's not, so I am going to pass this along. I have a pigment from About Face Beauty in Saint Ceremony. I think it's gorgeous, and I'm going to keep it. I'm going to pass along this LA Girl Holo Glam eyeshadow. I love the holographicness of it all, but this formula is very chunky, and I find that it falls off my lids, so I'm going to pass it along. In a magnetic palette, I have some single eyeshadows. All of these right here are from Fit Glow Beauty. They're multi-use. You can use them on your eyes and cheeks. And these three shadows on this side are from Give Me Glow Cosmetics. These two are metallics, and this one is like a super shimmer. Like the most metallic Give Me Glow. I was absolutely blown away. Their shadows are amazing, so obviously I'm going to keep them. Then I have my single eyeshadows from Half Magic Beauty. Half Magic does have a palette that they sell for you to keep them in, but mine is full of the blushes. This one's just from ColourPop. And I actually have another single eyeshadow in Lil Derange that was recently launched by Half Magic. And of course, I'm keeping all of these. And this is housing all of my Terra Moon's eyeshadows. They are extremely duochrome, a very nice formula. They were expensive. I need to use them more, but I'm going to keep them. And the real battle is all of my single shadows from Silk Naturals. I have 6 drawers full. So let me go through them and I'll share with you what I'm decided to keep. Okay, I made some tough decisions, but out of 6 drawers, this is what I'm keeping. I'm not going to go through them individually. If you see a color that interests you, just like leave it in the comment and I'll let you know what color it is. That means I am passing the rest along. 37 to be exact, passing along. And I'm keeping 31. Good declutter, I'd say.